Hey, it's Skywalker11, and today I'm showing you my methods for creating custom LEGO swords as accessories for minifigures. I have three main types that I'll be going over using different methods for the pieces. Depending on what piece I need for the size and the shape of a sword, I will use a different method. So, first off is long swords, smaller long swords. For these, I use katana pieces. So, for example, Kirito's Dark Repulsor from Sword Art Online. What I do with these is I will take a katana piece and I'll bend it straight. I'm not going to do it with this one in case I need it at some point, but here's one that I've already bent straight. I'll bend it straight and then take some scissors and cut at the end to give it the right pointed shape and length. And then if I need to add detail on, then I'll take tape and add those on with the tape. For example, the top of it here is thicker, and then there's the hilt. So those are made with tape to give it the right shape. Another example is the Knight Sky Sword, also from Sword Art Online, where I added tape for, again, the hilt and also at the bottom to make it look wider at the bottom. This is still probably my favorite LEGO sword that I've made. For some reason it just works really well. And then another example of that is a rapier like the Lambent Light, again from Sword Art Online. Same thing, just a katana piece that's been straightened. And for the hilt on this one, I took one of these and I painstakingly cut it in half. Very long process to cut one of these in half because it's a Technic piece. Technic pieces are indestructible. So very long process to file it down on the inside, right in the middle, until it finally broke into two, and then I took half of that, one half of it, and put it on as the hilt, or handguard. The next type is using this piece. I believe this is sword from old Knights Kingdom sets. I don't have a lot of these, so I tend to use this more unless I really need something with a unique shape. So what I do with these is I will first line what shape I need out of it, then I'll cut it down into the correct shape, and then I'll either cut these or I'll take pliers and bend them so that they go into a different shape. For example, the Elucidator from Sword Art Online. You can see how this was cut out of here, and then the guard part was bent over to make that rounded guard piece. Another example of editing the handguard is the Master Sword from Legend of Zelda. So you can see how this was cut into the thinness of a long sword and has customized handguard with these folded up. Just took pliers, crushed them down, and bent them up. And then the last example of this type is the Levin Sword from Fire Emblem. This one was just straight cutting, very careful cutting into the correct shape, which is why you can see a few dents in it from miscutting it. Not perfectly clean, but not too noticeable unless you're looking for it. Now the last type is beam blades. So the first one of these, there's a few different types of beam blades, but they generally just follow the same idea. This is Noah's sword from Xenoblade 3. So this is, again, taking one of these, one of the big greatsword pieces, cutting that into shape, same as normal with the Master Sword or the other examples, but then putting tape over it. You can see I put tape all around it so that you get that clear beam effect. I then, of course, colored the tape. And obviously after all the cutting is done to make everything into the right shapes, that's when I color them. So I don't have the regular clear tape that I normally use on hand. I just have the office tape that I have here. but I'll put the tape on like this, then put on another piece on the other side, and then cut it into the shape of the beam blade that I need. So here's another example of a beam blade made that way with putting tape all around it. This one was using a different piece base though, because I needed the central beam blade like a lightsaber piece. I used a Legends of Chima sword and cut that down into the correct shape. You can see there was a lot of cutting here. So not only cut it down in length, but size as well. Removed these pieces and then added in a lot of tape to make more shape. Besides just the tape to make the beam blade part, I also put on tape for the hilt like I do with some of the other swords. Then as the last example, this one is pretty different because it wasn't built from an actual customized sword piece, but rather it was built entirely from other pieces that were customized. This is the Monodo. So to make this was the basic build of it. I took these pieces, of course, cut them down to size, and added details with tape, a lot of details. So I cut this part so that the binocular piece would fit on correctly instead of being bent outwards like this. I took a axe piece like this and cut off the top of the axe to get this then put the lightsaber piece into that part of it, and then all of this, just a long multi-layered piece of paper taped on, and then this is also taped on over the binocular so that I had a flat surface to draw on the circle. So those are all the different ways that I make custom Lego swords. I'll use different methods depending on what the sword needs to look like. If it's thin, I'll use katana pieces. If it's something really big or it has a very large hilt, then I'll use the great sword piece. And then if it's a beam blade, I'll use the Legends of Chima swords. Or in the Monado's case, I will just completely build a unique build for it and use customized pieces instead of a single customized sword piece. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's every type of sword that I've made. There's another Legend of Chima sword piece that's similar to this, but shaped differently, that I used for Pyro's sword, so I didn't feel like it was necessary to show both of them. I'll try having some other process tutorials like this, or process methods, where I go over things like my coloring process, or the general process for building Lego Pokemon. I've done all of these before, but I'm updating them with new things that I might have done. Like the last time I did a sword process tutorial like this, I had not yet started doing the beam blade idea. I hadn't made any beam blades, so it was just this stuff. None of these. So anyway, see you next time. And if there's any other types of tutorials or process things like this that you'd want to see, then let me know, so I'll know to prioritize getting to those sooner than I might otherwise. But anyway, see you next time. Again,